Hello everyone, True Zero Emissions here. I'm going to talk about Bill Kendricks' flash vaporizing fuel system right now while I'm riding my electric unicycle, which I highly recommend as an alternative for commuting and getting around. It's highly efficient. InMotion makes different models. I learned on the InMotion V10F. You can also look at the V11, the InMotion V11, and you can look at the InMotion V11Y. Those are all good, not just for learning, but also higher level too, because the V11 and the V11Y both have suspension. The V10F doesn't have suspension. So Bill Kendricks was experimenting with a flashing vaporizing fuel system, which if you look on the internet and say what temperature does gasoline auto ignite, which is where it just is so hot that it'll burn, right? Without a flame, no flame, but the temperature is so high that it'll just burn right away, right? And I thought, last I looked, it said like between 400 and 500 or just over 500 degrees Fahrenheit. But what happened is I was studying Bill Kendrick's fuel system, flashing vapor system, and I asked him, what temperature is this? And he's like, oh, I'll tell you when I figure out how to do it with water, because he was trying to break apart the water molecule just with temperature. And he theorized and also found through experimentation that at a certain temperature you can break apart the water molecule. But I think would be interesting is to actually do something to the water before you flash vaporize it, right? What if we charge the water? Well, let's say we put an electrolyte in the water. Let's say we use Epsom salt, right? Which is the stuff you put in the bath when your muscles are sore. Not mixed with anything else, just pure Epsom salt, whatever that is. And then put a little pinch of that in the water, in distilled water. And then we take that water and we charge it like with a positive charge. We could also try a negative charge, right? We try both. Aquatune uses a positive charge. If you look at the Aquatune system, I think they're taking the positive terminal of the battery, because I had that system and I connected it to the water reservoir. The water reservoir on the Aquatune system, by the way, they use Epsom salt as well. So they use a pinch of Epsom salt, and when you get your amps around 1.5 amps, you know that you're in a good place, right? That's where you want the amps around 1.5. So if you need more amperage, if the amperage is too low, you just put more Epsom salt in, right? So that's the way we did it. That's how I did it, and that's how I was advised to do it with the previous owners of Aquatune. Now Aquatune has been purchased by different owners and different worker, I think. Or I think one of the workers might be the same. I'm not really sure of all how everything working with that company. I haven't kept up on it. People ask me, does the Aquatune system really work? Yeah, it really works, but it was hard to get it to work correctly. And I would recommend having a professional installer do it, because they can guarantee that you'll get better fuel efficiency. Because they do guarantee it, but there's a lot of work that goes into getting that correct, to get it working right with the car, with the automobile. Anyway, I feel like I'm going off on 6 different tangents right now. So if we talk about, we're talking about water. So Bill Kendricks was saying that he said he would tell everyone the temperature of gasoline, flash vaporizing it, once he figured out how to break water apart into oxygen and hydrogen with just temperature, by spraying it at a hot plate at a certain temperature, a very specific temperature, which I think it was like he found around 236 degrees, or between 220 degrees Fahrenheit and 240 degrees Fahrenheit, somewhere in between there, and it might have been around 236. But then we have to look at pressure, like what altitude was he at, because that's a variable, right? But anyway, I would say, and he said he got his indicator, his oxygen sensor was reading some hydrogen, but I mean, yeah, right, just small amounts, right? So how do we increase the efficiency of that, and how do we increase the dissociation of the water molecule and into hydrogen and oxygen, right? So we can use the hydrogen the same way that we use hydrogen and gasoline to run the engine, right? We're not using carbon to run the engine, so carbon doesn't need to be in there. It doesn't do anything. It just sits there and gets in the engine, gets in the air. We don't need carbon, right? We don't need carbon to run an engine. We need hydrogen. So water has hydrogen, and a lot of people use it for to facilitate the combustion process. They'll use an electrolysis system, and you can increase the voltage and the current to get more and more disassociation of the molecules. But higher voltage, over 400 volts, I was told is the maximum efficiency. Just anything over 400 volts, and keeping the current as low as possible, but let temperature of the cell be the guide of what, you know, how much current you put in there, right? But Stanley Meyer, who sadly passed away from health complications, and he was experimenting with like over 10,000 volts, over 20,000 volts, and then using like very, very little current. And he said the voltage would go to infinity. Now I'm not sure what that means or how you do that, but someone that understands circuitry would probably know, like electrical engineering would probably understand how to replicate that, right? But just to kind of supplement the fuel, right? It doesn't have to be running just on water or hydrogen from water, but it could be a system that runs on. We can add. Some people like just adding water to their combustion, right? Just water, steam, letting the steam help. Because so even if you weren't even disassociated in the water molecule, the steam would still help, right? Oh, I have to make sure I'm not too late for tonight's ride. I should think about that right now. Let me see what time it is. Because there's a ride tonight. I forgot what time that's at. Okay, I think I'm going to sit down and let my legs rest again. There we go. So I'm wearing the small / medium knee pads, and that's helping. Okay, so going back to fuel vapor systems. So the fuel vapor system that Bill Kendricks was experimenting with, by flash vaporizing the fuel, that's one way to increase combustion efficiency, I think. So when we do that, I think that's a stoichiometric equal balance complete burn. I think that's what that is. And then if you want to do more experimenting, the Geet fuel processor is another system, but you have to build the whole system yourself, right? I think that company or Paul Pantone was trying to turn that into a business his whole life and just couldn't get it out there. And he said he just kept choosing the wrong people to go in business with. But he said there was no way to know, because he thought people were reputable and credible, and then things would go bad. And now David Pantone, Paul Pantone's son, is continuing the work of sharing the technology. Okay, so let's start a new video, and we'll talk about electric unicycles and alternative transportations. Stop recording.